I'm Bob at ILikeToMakeStuff. Welcome to Shop Class. Welcome back, everybody, to Shop Class. This is part 2 of our little series that we're doing. So yesterday we went through a few different types of saws. We talked about what they were, how you use them, and what was different about them. We did the same for a few different types of clamps. Then the kids all got a chance to try out the saws for themselves and get a feel for them so that they know how to use them in a couple of days. If you haven't seen that video, be sure to go check it out. But today we're going to jump right in. Today we're starting with some really basic tools that you've probably seen before. One is the tape measure. This is a wound up ruler basically in a little case, and you can pull it out and it snaps back, but you need to be really careful with tape measures. These can snap back really hard and can hurt your fingers. Now, one way to make that not happen is to use the lock. Usually they'll have a little lock here that slides up and down, so as you pull the tape out, you slide that lock down and it will lock it out. Now, once you unlock it, it's going to snap back. You need to be careful because that can hurt you and it can damage the end of the tape measure. Another tool that you've probably seen before, even if you've never used one, is a hammer. This is actually two different tools in one. The hammer that you think of is about knocking in a nail. And to do that, you use the hammer end. But on the back side, there's something called a claw, and this is really handy for taking nails out. If you've got a nail that's sticking up so that the flat head of the nail is exposed a little bit, you can turn over the hammer and hook it under that head. Then you can pry the nail out of the wood. You probably won't have to do that a whole lot, but if you ever find yourself needing to take a nail out of something, that's what you can use. Another tool that is really handy, although you may have never seen one, is called a speed square. This has a whole bunch of tools built onto it, and we're not going to talk about all those, but there are a couple of really important things that you're going to find super useful. This is a triangle, and it gives you two 45-degree angles, one down here and one up here. But it also gives you a 90-degree angle up here. And the thing that makes this really useful is that it has a little shelf along the top. This is handy because you can use that shelf to hook it onto a piece of wood, and then that gives you a place that you can draw a line that is perpendicular to the top of your piece. Okay, there's some other tools that you've probably seen before, but I want to talk about a little bit. Screwdrivers. Now, these are hand screwdrivers. You use them with your hand, and you turn them one direction to put a screw in. You turn them the other direction to take the screw out. But these are actually different types of screwdrivers. Let's talk a little bit about the ends so you know what they're called when you see them. First, you've got a flathead screwdriver, and it's called that because the end of it is flat, just like a little line. This is only used for flathead screws. Then you've got a Phillips head screwdriver. That's kind of a funny name, but the end of it is shaped like a little cross, like a plus sign. It's pretty common that you will see screws that have a little plus sign in them, and the Phillips head screwdriver is the one that you need. And here's one that you won't see quite as often, but they do show up now and again, a square drive. The end of this is a square. There are a bunch of other types, but those are the three that you'll probably see around your house or in the projects that you may make. Now, like I mentioned, these are hand screwdrivers, so you use your hand to turn them left and right. And that works just fine, but in certain cases, it can actually take quite a while to put a screw in that way. And that's why people came up with a power screwdriver, or a drill in this case. You can use this for both jobs, to drill a hole or to drive in a screw. Yesterday we talked about the jigsaw and how it had a little trigger on it. Well, this has a trigger too, and it works exactly the same way. The trigger is right here, and as you pull that in, the further you pull it, the faster the tool is going to turn. So if you need it to move really slowly, just barely pull the trigger. Another thing that's really interesting about this is that you can mimic turning your hand left and right by changing the direction of this drill or this screwdriver. It's got a little switch right here that you can press in and out, and that makes it turn two different directions. Now, since this is actually a drill, it has something on the end of it called a chuck, and it's this spinning piece. It's got some little jaws in here, and as you spin this, it makes those jaws open and close. That's how you put a tool in the end of it. So in this case, I'm going to take a drill bit, slide it right here in between those jaws, and then I turn the chuck. As I turn it, it gets tighter and tighter until it clicks. Once it clicks, you want to tighten it just a little bit more so you know it's really nice and snug. Now, of course, like any power tool, this can be really dangerous. You need to be very careful about where this is pointed or what it's touching when you pull that trigger. So you can definitely put a drill bit in here. You can put a screw driving bit in here, but there's also other stuff that you can put in to cut different types of holes. This is a regular drill bit. You've probably seen one of these before, but there are some other ones that can drill bigger holes. This is often called a spade bit. This has a point on the end to help it touch the wood and start drilling the hole, and then it has two sharp edges on the outside that help cut a big circle. There's actually blades along the whole inside of it that will scoop away the wood as well. This thing can be pretty dangerous if you're not careful with it because of all the sharp faces, but it is a great way to drill a big hole in a piece of wood. Another way to drill a big hole in a piece of wood is something called a Forstner bit. This is a lot chunkier and shorter. But instead of just having cutting edges on the outside of that flat face, this is actually a big circle, kind of like a saw. It has a bunch of teeth around the outside and a point in the middle to help it stay in one place while you're drilling. On the inside of it, it also has a long cutting blade to scoop away the wood. This is probably not something you'll use as much, but in case you need to, just remember it's called a Forstner bit. One other thing I wanted to point out, this is a drill and you can use it as a screwdriver too, but there's also something called a driver. This is a powered driver just for driving in screws. You use it the exact same way, but it's really just made for driving in screws. Not everybody has one of these, but a lot of people, like me, have both.
Lucky.
We use them for two different things, and it's really handy to have a screwdriver in one and a drill in the other so you don't have to keep switching the bits. Now it's time to use the clamps from yesterday, clamp down some pieces of wood so they're nice and secure, and test out all the drills and the screwdrivers. If you didn't watch yesterday's episode, you may want to go back and do that because there's a lot of safety stuff that we cover at the beginning of that one. All right, safety glasses on, let's do it. Stop, let go of the trigger.
That was really cool.
All right, everybody at home, it's time for a quiz. Are you ready? All right, question number 1. What type of screwdriver is this? This is a Phillips head. It's kind of a weird name for the shape, but just remember a Phillips head has a plus sign on the end of it. Next up, we've got a true or false question. This is called a slide square. That's false. This is called a speed square. And remember, it's great for drawing perpendicular lines to the edge of your piece. Now we do have a bits video all about this tool that talks about a bunch of the different things you can do with it if you want to learn more. We've got another true and false question, and this one's about the drill. True or false? The best way to put a bit in the drill is just to push it in really far and you're done. That's false. Remember, this has a chuck that you need to turn that tightens and loosens the jaws around the bit to hold it in securely. All right, we've got one more. What is this called? This is a spade bit. Remember, these come in much larger sizes than a regular drill bit, so you can drill much bigger holes. That's it for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with us in shop class. I hope you learned something new. Tomorrow, we're going to put together all the stuff that we learned so far, and my kids are going to work together as a team to make a birdhouse. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.